how is it I can go from writing a book about note-taking to ending up creating my own video hosting platform? So let's dive into a bit of behind the scenes of my new book, Atomic Note-Taking. So it all started a long time ago when I loved listening to audiobooks, and I realized that I wanted to create content on YouTube to help teach what I've learned. But I found it frustrating. I couldn't recall the information. I didn't know how to organize it in a way. And when I was looking at what other people were creating, they seemed to have a system cracked. And I set myself the goal of to stop creating YouTube videos and find out that system. Then I read How to Take Smart Notes by Sonke Ahrens. That was the missing piece. I learned about the Zettelkasten method. And in this process, I started to create content around the Zettelkasten because I'm building an app called Flowtelic about note-taking, and the whole lot sort of snowballed into essentially now over 1 million views on YouTube teaching this stuff. And then through that, I got invited to give a seminar to the Queen Mary University of London to teach PhD students about the Zettelkasten method. And I thought, I really want something at the end of that seminar that the students can go to, a call to action, as you say, that will take what I can say in 3 hours, but give them something that they can then invest in for a period of time after. And the idea of writing atomic note-taking came into action. So this now was the start of the journey. So I'll take you through how I essentially did this. All starts with a Google Doc, essentially. This is the final manuscript, but I would work on this, I'd outline it. Because I didn't use the Zettelkasten to learn the Zettelkasten, very meta, I didn't actually use the Zettelkasten to write the book, which, you know, showed through in some way where I could have had some more advantages had I put it into practice on this topic, essentially. But I would spend many evenings chugging away at writing the manuscript for this book, broken down into all these topics. And yeah, that was a true kind of exercise of, you know, normal daily life, family life, and as the evening goes, I'd open up my editor, I'd have it all ready to go, and my challenge was to just kind of get a section done, and then you get into the flow of things, and things get easier. But then you got the examples as well. That was also quite challenging because I know what I want to say, but I then need some examples here, like I need that. So then sometimes I have to break away and actually just do the work on that. But essentially I put it all together here, and then at some point I realized, well, I need to lay this thing out. How does that look? And my tool of choice was Affinity Publisher. So I learnt all about how to use this as a tool, how to make my text boxes flow from page to page, how to have images that overlap and move the text around, how to do all the styles, how to do the pagination, how to do the running titles, the table of contents, all of that. But then I also realized, well, I don't want to do all of this and then realize I can't get a printed copy. So I went to lulu.com and said, okay, how do I print a book? Pulled down their templates, got all the measurements, and that's what led to essentially my page layout. So I plugged in all the numbers. I did it as a US trade size. This is my preferred size. I took, you know, the kind of size of book that I wanted, measured it. Oh, that's a US trade. So I did that. So you've got your gutter. Sorry, you've got your bleed, which is the outer margin here. That's what gets trimmed off when the paper's cut. You have your margin, which is the bit that makes sure that your text does not run close to the edge of the paper. So this square in the middle is essentially the safe zone for the content. And then you've got your gutter, which means this margin here is smaller than that one on the left side, but it's flipped on the other side. So layout, it's left, right. So if I insert a page, then everything gets out of sync, which is really annoying. But ultimately it worked. I got a version of the manuscript put into here. So it's a mixture of working in Google Docs and then working in Affinity Publisher, and eventually the whole lot came together. I would do the diagrams in Affinity Publisher, so things like this I would put together. I used Midjourney for a lot of the artwork. That worked really well. So all in all, I had a nice workflow going here, and then I could get my first copy printed with Lulu, and that was fantastic, but very expensive. It was probably, I don't know, in dollars, it would probably be about $38 to get printed before delivery, or it could be including delivery at the premium, because I tried a variety of different prints. In fact, I have tried all the print qualities from Lulu, Ingram Spark, which is who I'm using now, and Amazon, and I'm going to do a separate video comparing all the print qualities in full color, so you don't, if you were going to do this yourself, you don't have to go through the pain that I went through, so I could assess the different ones. I would then take that copy, and that would be my proof copy, and then I'd actually go and edit that and draw all over the pages and everything, and then go back to my Google Doc, fix all the text corrections, all of that, and then bring it through. So essentially, this is what I ended up with, is this copy. But how does that involve creating a video hosting platform? Well, I'm an entrepreneur at the same time. I've built what you call the flywheel effect. The content on YouTube now gets enough sort of views regularly that a lot of you started joining the waitlist for the book. This was really positive. I think we had about 1,903 people on the waitlist over that year period, which is fantastic. And thank you if you were one of the people who joined that waitlist, because it told me that what I was doing was worthwhile. And then I started designing what the homepage would look like. I put something together in Figma and started thinking about that. But I was choosing how to deliver this thing. I don't want to have to deal with all the tax complications. So taking Stripe payments, Shopify, sort of aren't really the right choice for a digital product, because then I have to deal with all the European VAT and all of that, which is frustrating, which leaves platforms like Gumroad, and I ended up using Lemon Squeezy. There are other platforms, Podio and all of that, but I wanted to control my own landing page, essentially, because I just wasn't happy with the way they allowed me to curate what I wanted at the other end. Of course, I could go and list the book on Amazon, but then you've got all the Amazon fees. You've also got the fact that you don't build a relationship with the customers. They're Amazon customers. They buy your book. You don't know who they are. And I would never say never with Amazon, but not right now, essentially. So I decided I'm going to build my own platform. I'll take the payments separately. They'll use Lemon Squeezy. Their fees are really good. So it's like 5%. Their commission. There are other commissions for transferring money, international, PayPal, and then getting the money out again. So you are looking maybe 7.5%, 8% of whatever that is. They handle all the tax as well. So the moment someone puts their address in, it works out what tax should be applied. If you're buying just the ebook, then that's listed as an ebook, which I think has a lower tax rate. But of course, if you're buying the course, then the tax rate is different. So, which leads me to the course. I decided that on launch, I don't just want to launch a book. I want to provide more value. I want to provide an upsell. Let's say it's an upsell, but I genuinely think it's a better product. The video component. I love teaching in person, essentially, and that was a way to deliver that. So I wanted to deliver a video course, but I don't want to use a video hosting platform. I wanted something that could tie with the payments and the book and all of that. And what I also didn't want to do is just give you a bunch of MP4s in, many gigabytes worth of MP4s. So I wanted to host it. So I found a hosting provider called bunny.net where I can upload the content. They can actually protect the content so nobody can just take the link and put it on some random site. So there's all of that. And in order to access that, then I decided we'll use the license keys in Lemon Squeezy. So we actually buying as a license to it. So that is when I started working on Atomic Workflows, the website. This is the development version, which has different content to what you would see if you go to atomicworkflows.com. I've got some more sample kind of data in here so I can test out the platform. So here, now I knew what I wanted to create. I wanted to create a listing of the products. I wanted to list them as books, and I wanted to list them as courses. Atomic Workflows is both a book and a course, with a view that I can add new products in the future. which is future proofing. I'm an engineer, I'm a programmer. Of course, I'm going to over optimize this, and then access to your library, which would then validate your license key, or you can add your license key, and then it validates it, and then gives you direct connection to the content, and then you click through to the course. This is the sample. I only put 5 of the videos in my dev environment. There are 104 videos on the main website. So when you buy it, you get 104 videos, 9 hours, 45 minutes worth of content. So I wanted to build this, but I also don't want to be maintaining a kind of a CMS in the background. And that's when I discovered through a colleague an open source package called Strapi, STRAPI. And when you install this, when you run this, it gives you a dashboard where you can model out what you want in the background. So I can model out what a project looks like, what a book looks like, what a course looks like. A course has sections, and sections have videos, the downloads so you can actually access the product, and what the offers are. So here's an example of what it would look like. I can say, okay, a product has a title. I can relate it to a book and a course, so I can have those separately modeled. Description, and then all the content blocks that build up essentially the front end of this. So these are these blocks that I put in. So for example, who this book is for, when I now look at this in the content manager, so I go to the product, I go to Atomic Note Taking, and essentially I'm putting in the content here, uploading images, who the book is for, students, teachers, and then I can rearrange those, and it just manages it all for me. And that's really nice. Which then means all I have to do is connect to it in code. I've got my designs in Figma, and I can now start building this out. I use React and Next.js, and essentially, when you go to a project page, it goes into the project, here's the page. We get a few things from the server. So we get some config, get the full project, that returns the project, and I can just pass that down into a sort of render out all the component blocks that represent the project. And I can now maintain this and evolve this as it goes. And throughout all of that, it even builds up to having a course player. This is where I start. I didn't expect to be building a whole video player engine, but here's a course player. It takes in a course, which is down here. Here's the course, and here's your purchase token, because we need to validate the purchase token just so the links don't get put out on the interweb, and it's hard to control then. So essentially this renders out the course, the header, the title. You got the player, which is the bunny.net embedded video player, passing in things that do the security tokens, then the playlist, output the playlist. So you can see how it all builds up. I don't want to go in any more detail on this because I think that's way too detailed. But essentially, the finished product is Atomic Workflows, where we have the product and it all renders. We've got markdown formatting that's rendered out here. And then, of course, when you go to your library and you look at the video course, you get all 104 videos, all neatly playing and everything. And then that is now accessible as long as you've got the license key from the purchase. And of course, plugging into the Lemon Squeezy platform. Very simple. When you hit buy now, you hit the buy button and it just does that embedded payment. So I don't have to do anything with any customer data payments. Only thing I need to do is validate a license key, make sure I know what package that the person purchased, and show them the content. Really straightforward. So yeah, that's a bit of a behind the scenes really of all of this. I use ConvertKit for the mailing list. I've been building that up over the last year for the book. As I say, 1,903 people joined that. And then I've done 2 emails out from that, and it's had over 200 people purchase, which is great. Thank you very much. So yeah, if this was interesting to you, and the book is interesting to you, then go check it out, atomicworkflows.com, and have a look at Atomic Note Taking. Links are in the description. And if you want to kind of learn more about your own knowledge management, then I highly encourage you go look at the book. But I just wanted to give you an idea behind what it's like as a content creator, going through from writing a manuscript, formatting it as a book, and then obviously creating the PDF for that, and then building my own custom landing page using this Strapi and a React front end. The whole lot kind of comes together. I know that's a very simplified version because it has taken me a year to do all of this. I do know how complicated it is, but I think it's also quite interesting to show a bit of the behind the scenes, how all this sort of scrappily came together, where the bits I'm doing that are hard, I know what I'm doing, and the bits I don't want to take care of, like the payments and the tax handling, I just let someone else handle that. I don't want to build a CMS, I use Strapi, that kind of thing. And now I have a platform that, as I can develop new products in this area and listen to feedback from customers of what extra things I can add, it's really simple to do. And I'll give you an example. I hadn't launched the EPUB version of the book, and someone said, I'm really struggling to read the PDF because I can't zoom in on the device I've got. It doesn't quite work. So, and I'd already planned to do an EPUB, but I managed to figure it out. That was a bit tricky because you would think that going file, download as an EPUB in Google Docs would be fine, but no, it is absolutely hideous. But downloading as a Word document and then using Calibre to convert that to an EPUB mostly worked. I had to make sure that all the background images of these are actually white, not transparent, so that when you're looking in dark mode, it's all fine. And I also had to clean up some of the table of contents because some untitled entries ended up there. But for the most part, it seems to have worked. And it certainly looks great on my phone for the EPUB. So yeah, there's lots of moving parts to launching this. And I've certainly not made it easy for myself, but it's been really fun, really enjoyable. I've learned a lot in the process. And most importantly, I got the thing launched. It's both a video course and a book as well. And what I haven't covered actually is just a little bit behind the scenes of, when I record the videos, I would put them onto here. I'd have both the screen recording, the audio recording, and then here. And essentially I lay them out in the timeline. I do some color correction, copy the same color correction because there's 104 videos that I want aesthetically the same. Versions of the video where it's smaller, but the subtitles, Adobe Premiere is absolutely fantastic at transcribing the subtitles, and then I would go through. It cannot spell Zettelkasten though, really annoying, especially for this content. So I would listen to this back at double speed and pick up any spelling errors to what I was saying and how I was saying it, and I was going in and correcting those. So I've created the subtitle tracks, and then in the video course, when you basically play that back, in the back end, I can upload those subtitles separately, so you get a nice nice subtitle from the content. So if I turn those on, and that works really, really well. So if you aren't natively English speaking or you prefer to have subtitles, they work really well when you want to listen to the content. So yeah, I'm rambling now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you're new to the channel about other things and you're new to what I produce on note taking, I create lots of content on note taking and a bit of productivity stuff as well, and workflows and all of that. So do consider subscribing, and of course do consider buying the book as well. Thank you.